After being reborn, I rejected the Mafia boss and chose the boy who loved me the most. The last thing I remember before the world went dark was Jamie's blood on my hands. Not metaphorically. His blood. Hot and slick, seeping through my fingers as I pressed my palms against the wound in his chest. He had thrown himself in front of me. Adrian's bullet had been meant for me. It had torn through Jamie instead, and even then, even with his life pouring out onto the concrete floor of that godforsaken warehouse, Jamie had smiled at me. "Don't cry, Eli," he had whispered. "I always loved you." Then his hand went limp in mine. I think I screamed. I think I begged him to stay. I think I turned to Adrian, who stood there with the gun still raised, his dark eyes empty of anything resembling remorse, and I think I lunged at him. I don't remember the second shot. I only remember the cold spreading through my chest, and then nothing. And then I woke up. Not in a hospital. Not in some afterlife. I woke up in my old bedroom, in the cramped off-campus apartment I had shared during my junior year of college. The ceiling had the same water stain in the shape of a lopsided cat. The air smelled like cheap coffee and the vanilla candle Jamie had bought me for my 21st birthday. Jamie. I sat up so fast my head spun. My hands flew to my chest. No bullet hole. No blood. Just the thin cotton of my old t-shirt, the one with the faded band logo on the front. I looked at the calendar on my phone, the one I had definitely sold years ago after Adrian had given me a new phone, a gift that was really a leash. The date stared back at me. October 12th. The day everything changed. The day Adrian Voss walked into the cafe where I worked and decided he wanted me. The day I made the worst mistake of my life by saying yes. The day Jamie was supposed to wait for me outside in the rain, holding a bouquet of sunflowers, ready to finally tell me how he felt. Instead, I had left through the back door with Adrian, too dazzled by his expensive car and dangerous smile to even glance at the boy who had loved me for years. Jamie had never gotten the chance to say it. Not then. He had said it later, in a warehouse, with a bullet in his chest. My hands were shaking. The phone screen blurred. I could still feel the ghost of Jamie's blood on my skin, still hear the echo of his final words. "I always loved you." I swung my legs out of bed and grabbed my hoodie from the chair. It was early evening. I had a shift at the cafe in an hour. Jamie would be waiting for me after. I didn't know what time Adrian would appear, maybe around 8, but I knew what I was going to do. I was going to choose Jamie. Not the Mafia boss with the sharp suits and colder eyes. Not the man who had kept me in a gilded cage for 5 years, who had isolated me from everyone I loved, who had made me believe I had nowhere else to go. Not the man who had killed the only person who had ever truly loved me. I was going to choose the boy who brought me soup when I was sick. The boy who walked me home every night even when his own apartment was in the opposite direction. The boy who remembered my coffee order and the names of all my fictional crushes and the exact day my father left. The boy who looked at me like I was the sun. Jamie. I had wasted 5 years in another life. I would not waste a single second in this one. Jamie lived 3 blocks away, in a rundown building that always smelled like fried onions and old carpet. We had met freshman year when he accidentally locked himself out of his room in nothing but a towel. I had laughed so hard I almost fell over. He had blushed to the roots of his sandy hair and said, "I'm Jamie. I'm never living this down, am I?" He never had. But he had also never stopped being my favorite person. I didn't call him. I didn't text. I just ran. The October air was cold and wet, the kind of damp that seeped into your bones. I didn't care. My sneakers slapped against the pavement, and my lungs burned, and my heart felt like it might crack open with every step. I had to see him. I had to touch him. I had to make sure he was real, that he was alive, that the past 5 years had been nothing but a nightmare I had finally woken from. I reached his building and buzzed his apartment. No answer. I buzzed again. Then I remembered, he had a class until 7 on Tuesdays. I checked my phone. 6:40. He would be walking home soon. I sat on the cold concrete steps outside his building and waited. Rain started to fall, thin and icy. It soaked through my hoodie. I didn't move. At 7:03, I heard footsteps. Jamie came around the corner with his backpack slung over one shoulder, earbuds in, head down. He was wearing that ridiculous green beanie with the little pom-pom on top, the one I had given him as a joke gift 2 years ago. He had worn it every winter since. My chest ached so badly I could barely breathe. He looked up. Saw me sitting on his stoop in the rain. His eyebrows shot up. Eli? He pulled out his earbuds and hurried over. What are you doing here? You're soaked. You're going to get sick. I stood up. My legs felt unsteady. Jamie. Yeah, I'm Jamie. Last time I checked. He frowned, reaching out to brush wet hair from my forehead. His fingers were warm. What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. I have, I said. My voice cracked. I've seen a lot of ghosts. He stared at me. The rain beaded on his eyelashes. He looked so young, so alive, so completely unaware that in another version of this night, he would be standing outside a cafe with sunflowers, watching me walk away with a monster. I reached out and grabbed the front of his coat. Then I pulled him into the tightest hug I had ever given anyone. Jamie made a surprised noise, but his arms came up automatically, wrapping around me. Hey, hey. I've got you. Whatever it is, I've got you. I buried my face in his shoulder and sobbed. I don't know how long we stood there. Long enough for the rain to soak us both. Long enough for Jamie to start rubbing slow circles on my back, murmuring soft, meaningless reassurances into my hair. Long enough for me to finally believe, deep in my bones, that this was real. Let's go inside, Jamie said gently. You need a hot shower and dry clothes. Then you're going to tell me what's going on, okay? I nodded against his shoulder. His apartment was exactly as I remembered it, small, cluttered, warm. Books stacked on every surface. A half-empty mug of cold tea on the nightstand. The smell of his cheap lavender laundry detergent on the towel he handed me. I showered quickly, put on a pair of his sweatpants and an old hoodie that smelled like him, and came out to find him making hot chocolate on the tiny stove. He turned when I entered, and his eyes softened. You look better, he said. Less like a drowned rat. I laughed. It came out wet and broken. Thanks. He handed me a mug. Our fingers brushed. The warmth of his skin sent a jolt through me, and I had to resist the urge to grab his hand and never let go. We sat on his second-hand couch. He didn't push. He just waited, patient as always, his knee almost touching mine. I stared into my hot chocolate. Jamie, can I ask you something? Anything. Do you ever feel like you've lived a whole other life? Like you made a choice, and it was the wrong one, and then you woke up and you had a chance to fix it? Jamie was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I don't know about other lives. But I know about second chances. He paused. Eli, why were you really outside my building in the rain? I looked at him. His brown eyes were full of concern, full of something else too, something he had never quite managed to hide. Love. It had always been there. I had just been too blind to see it. Because I had to see you, I said. Because I had to tell you something before it was too late. His breath caught. What is it? I set my mug down and turned to face him fully. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. Jamie, I need you to know that I choose you. Not anyone else. Not some stranger with a nice car and a dangerous smile. You. I choose you. The silence stretched between us like a wire pulled taut. Then Jamie said, very quietly, Eli, are you saying what I think you're saying? Yes. I reached out and took his hand. His fingers were warm and a little rough from his part-time job at the hardware store. I traced the faint scar on his thumb, the one he'd gotten when he had tried to fix my broken bookshelf and hit his hand with a hammer. I'm saying I love you. I think I've loved you for a long time. I was just too scared to admit it. Jamie's eyes went shiny. You're not messing with me? I would never mess with you about this. He let out a breath that sounded like it had been trapped in his chest for years. Then he surged forward and kissed me. It was not a gentle kiss. It was desperate and clumsy and perfect. His hands cupped my face like I was something precious, and his lips moved against mine with a hunger that made my head spin. I kissed him back with everything I had, all the grief and relief and love that had been building inside me since the moment I opened my eyes in my old bedroom. When we finally pulled apart, we were both breathing hard. Jamie rested his forehead against mine. I've wanted to do that since freshman year, he whispered. Since the towel incident. I laughed, and it came out real this time. That was the most embarrassing moment of your life. It was the best moment of my life, he corrected. Because that's when I met you. My eyes burned. I pulled him into another hug, burying my face in his neck. I'm sorry I made you wait so long, I said. You're worth it, Jamie said simply. You've always been worth it. We stayed like that for a long time, wrapped in each other on his worn-out couch, the rain tapping against the windows, the smell of hot chocolate filling the room. For the first time in what felt like years, I felt safe. But somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew it wouldn't last. Adrian Voss was still out there. He would come for me. And this time, I had to be ready. I called in sick to work that night. I couldn't face the cafe, not knowing what was supposed to happen there. The manager, a tired woman named Carol, didn't ask questions. Just don't make it a habit, Eli, she said, and hung up. Jamie made us pasta. We ate sitting cross-legged on his living room floor, talking about nothing and everything. He kept looking at me like he couldn't quite believe I was real. I kept looking at him like he was the only thing keeping me tethered to the earth. So, he said, twirling spaghetti around his fork, when did you know? Know what? That you loved me. I thought about it. The truth was complicated. The truth involved a bullet and a warehouse and 5 years of living in a gilded cage with a man who had never loved me, only owned me. But I couldn't tell him that. Not yet. I think I always knew, I said instead. I just didn't let myself feel it. Jamie's cheeks went pink. That's annoyingly romantic. I'm an annoyingly romantic person. He grinned and threw a piece of bread at me. I caught it and ate it. For a few hours, I let myself forget. I let myself be just a 21-year-old boy in love with his best friend, eating pasta on the floor of a tiny apartment, laughing at dumb jokes and stealing glances and touching knees under the coffee table. But the clock kept ticking. At 8:15, my phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. My blood turned to ice. I saw you tonight. You're different from what I expected. I like different. A.V****. I stared at the screen. My hand started to shake. Eli? Jamie leaned over. What's wrong? I locked the phone and forced a smile. Nothing. Just spam. But Jamie knew me too well. His smile faded. That's not a spam face. That's a, I'm about to have a panic attack, face. Before I could answer, there was a knock at the door. Jamie frowned. Are you expecting someone? No, my voice came out sharp. Too sharp. Don't answer it. He looked at me, confused but trusting. "Eli, what's going on?" The knock came again. Louder this time. I stood up. My legs felt like they belonged to someone else. I walked to the door and looked through the peephole. Adrian Voss stood in the hallway. He looked exactly as I remembered, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Jamie's entire apartment. His dark hair was slicked back, and his eyes were the color of winter. He was beautiful, in the way a knife is beautiful. Cold. Sharp. Deadly. I stepped back from the door like it had burned me. "Eli," Jamie said behind me, "you're scaring me." The door handle rattled. Adrian's voice came through the thin wood, smooth as silk. "Eli. I know you're in there." I saw the light under the door. Jamie moved to stand beside me. "Who is that?" I grabbed his arm. "Jamie, listen to me. Do not open that door. Do not talk to him. Stay behind me." Jamie's eyes widened, but he didn't argue. He just nodded. I took a deep breath. Then I did the thing I had been terrified to do in my last life. I opened the door. Adrian stood there, one hand in his pocket, a small smile playing at the corners of his lips. He looked me up and down with an expression that made my skin crawl. "There you are," he said. "I was hoping we could talk." "We have nothing to talk about," I said. His smile didn't waver. "I disagree. You see, I've been watching you for a while, Eli. You work at a little cafe on 5th Street. You study literature. You have a habit of humming when you think no one's listening." He tilted his head. "I find you fascinating." Behind me, Jamie stiffened. I could feel the anger radiating off him. "I'm not interested," I said. Adrian's eyes flicked to Jamie, then back to me. "Is this the boyfriend? The one who always waits for you after your shift? Loyal. Devoted. A little ordinary." Jamie stepped forward, but I held him back. "Don't," I said quietly. Adrian's smile widened. "I could give you so much more, Eli. A life without struggle. A world where you never have to worry about rent or bills or ordinary people who will never understand you." He leaned closer. "All you have to do is say yes." I remembered, in my last life, how those words had sounded like a promise. Now they sounded like a threat. "No," I said. Adrian blinked. For the first time, his expression flickered, surprise, then something darker. "No? No," I repeated. "I'm not interested. I will never be interested. And if you ever come near me or Jamie again, I will make sure you regret it." The hallway went silent. Adrian stared at me, and for a moment, I saw the monster beneath the mask, the man who had killed Jamie without flinching, who had kept me in a cage and called it love. Then he laughed. It was a cold, empty sound. "You have fire," he said. "I like that." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card, holding it out to me. "When you change your mind, and you will, call me." I didn't take the card. I shut the door in his face. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely turn the lock. I leaned against the door, squeezing my eyes shut, trying to breathe. Jamie was there in an instant, his hands on my shoulders. "Eli. Eli, look at me. Breathe with me. In and out. In and out." I opened my eyes. His face was pale, but his gaze was steady. "Who was that?" he asked. I swallowed. "His name is Adrian Voss. He's dangerous, Jamie. Very dangerous." I gathered that. Jamie's jaw tightened. "He's been watching you?" "Yes." "And he just showed up at my door? How did he even know you were here?" I didn't have an answer. Or rather, I had too many answers, none of which I could say. I knew exactly how Adrian found people. He had resources, cameras, informants, dirty cops. He had probably been watching me for weeks, just like he had in my last life. The only difference was that this time, I had been at Jamie's apartment instead of the cafe. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I didn't mean to bring him here." Jamie pulled me into his arms. "Don't apologize. This isn't your fault." He held me tighter. "We'll figure it out. Together." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that love could protect us from a man like Adrian Voss. But I knew better. I had seen what Adrian could do. And I knew that if I didn't stop him, he would take everything from me again. This time, I wouldn't run. This time, I would fight. That night, I told Jamie everything. Not about the rebirth, I wasn't sure he would believe me, and I wasn't ready to explain how I knew what I knew. But I told him about Adrian's reputation. I told him about the whispers I had heard in the city, the stories about the Voss family and their iron grip on the criminal underworld. I told him that Adrian didn't take no for an answer. Jamie listened without interrupting. When I finished, he took my hand. "Then we leave," he said. "We pack our bags and get out of the city. We can transfer schools, find new jobs, start over somewhere he can't find us." My heart squeezed. "Jamie, you have a life here. You have your classes, your job, your family. I have you," he said firmly. "That's all I need." I stared at him. In my last life, I had thought Adrian's possessiveness was love. I had been so wrong. This steady, selfless devotion, this was love. Jamie wasn't trying to own me. He was trying to protect me, even if it meant giving up everything he had built. "No," I said. "Running won't help. Adrian has reach. He has people everywhere. If we run, he'll find us. And then we'll be alone, with no one to help us." Jamie's brow furrowed. "So what do we do?" I thought about the years I had spent in Adrian's world. I had been quiet, obedient, invisible. But I had also been observant. I knew things, names, dates, locations. I knew where Adrian kept his records, where he ran his money through shell companies, where he stored his weapons. I had never used that knowledge before. I had been too afraid. But I wasn't afraid anymore. "We fight back," I said. "But we do it smart. We need evidence. We need help." Jamie looked at me for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Okay. Whatever you need. I'm with you." I leaned forward and kissed him. This time, it was softer, slower. "A promise." "I love you," I said against his lips. "I love you too," he whispered back. "I've loved you for so long, Eli. I don't know how to stop." "Don't stop," I said. "Never stop." He kissed me again, and for a while, the world outside didn't exist. We didn't go to class the next day. We stayed in Jamie's apartment, curtains drawn, phones on silent. I used a cheap burner phone I bought from a corner store to make anonymous calls. I left tips with the FBI field office, the local police, even a journalist I remembered from my last life who had been investigating the Voss family before she disappeared. I didn't give them everything. Not yet. I needed to be careful. If Adrian found out I was the source, he would come after us immediately. But I gave them enough to start digging. Jamie watched me work with a mixture of awe and concern. "You know a lot about this guy," he said quietly. "I've done my research," I lied. He didn't push. He just brought me tea and kept his hand on my back while I worked. That night, as we lay in his bed, not sleeping, he said, "Eli, I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise me you won't try to handle this alone. Whatever happens, we face it together. Okay? I turned to look at him. The moonlight filtered through the thin curtains, casting silver shadows across his face. He looked so earnest, so brave, so completely willing to risk everything for me. I promise, I said. He reached out and traced the line of my jaw. Good. Because I just got you, Eli. I'm not losing you now. I closed the distance between us and kissed him. It started gentle, but it deepened quickly. His hands found my waist, and I pulled him closer. We fit together like we had been made for each other. We didn't go further than kissing that night. But we fell asleep wrapped in each other's arms, and for the first time in 5 years, I didn't have nightmares. 3 days passed. Adrian didn't call, didn't text, didn't show up. I should have been relieved, but I knew him too well. He was patient. He was strategic. He was probably watching us right now, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Jamie and I tried to maintain some semblance of normalcy. We went to class, went to work, held hands in public, kissed on street corners. But every shadow felt like a threat. Every stranger's glance felt like a warning. I started leaving Jamie's apartment before dawn. I needed to be alone, to think, to plan. I would walk through the city, retracing the steps I had taken in my last life, mapping out all the places Adrian had taken me, all the secrets I had learned. One morning, I found myself standing outside the cafe where I worked. It was early, still dark, the chairs stacked on the tables, the windows fogged with condensation. I stared at the spot where Jamie had stood with sunflowers in my last life, waiting for me to come out. I had walked right past him. I had gotten into Adrian's car and left him standing in the rain. The guilt hit me like a physical blow. I leaned against the cold brick wall and pressed my hand over my mouth, trying not to cry. Eli? I spun around. Jamie stood behind me, his breath puffing white in the cold air, his green beanie pulled low over his ears. What are you doing here? I asked. My voice came out rough. I woke up and you were gone. He stepped closer. I got worried. I'm fine. You're not. He reached out and touched my cheek. You're crying. I hadn't even noticed. I wiped my face with the back of my hand. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. Jamie pulled me into a hug. Stop apologizing. Just, let me be here for you, okay? You don't have to carry all of this alone. I buried my face in his shoulder and breathed him in. Lavender. Tea. Home. I keep thinking about all the ways I could have lost you, I whispered. All the ways I almost did. But you didn't, he said firmly. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. I pulled back and looked at him. Do you trust me, Jamie? With my life. Then I need to tell you something. Something that's going to sound crazy. He nodded slowly. Okay. Tell me. So I did. I told him everything. The rebirth. The 5 years I had spent with Adrian. The gilded cage, the isolation, the threats. The way Jamie had always been there, even when I had pushed him away. The warehouse. The bullet. The blood on my hands. The sound of his voice saying, I always loved you. When I finished, Jamie was very quiet. We had moved to a bench in the small park across from the cafe. The sun was starting to rise, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. So in your last life, Jamie said slowly, I died. Yes. And you chose him. Instead of me. I flinched. Yes. Jamie looked at me. There was no anger in his eyes, only a deep, aching sadness. Eli, that must have been so hard. 5 years of that. And then watching me die. I stared at him. That's what you're focused on. I just told you I made the wrong choice. I left you standing in the rain. I chose the man who killed you. Jamie took my hand. And then you came back. You came to me. You chose me. He squeezed my fingers. That's all that matters now. My eyes filled with tears. How are you so forgiving? Because I love you, he said simply. And I'm not going to waste the second chance we've been given by being angry about things that haven't happened yet. Or things that happened in another life that I don't even remember. He paused. Is that okay? I laughed, a wet, shaky sound. Yeah. That's okay. He pulled me close and kissed the top of my head. Good. Now let's go get breakfast. I'm starving. I didn't deserve him. But I was going to spend the rest of my life trying to. The next 2 weeks were a blur of cautious hope and creeping dread. My anonymous tips had been received. I saw news reports about a federal investigation into organized crime in the city. No names were mentioned, but I knew. The net was tightening around Adrian Voss. Jamie and I had settled into a rhythm. He would cook dinner, I would wash the dishes. He would study for his classes, I would pretend to study while actually writing down every detail I could remember about Adrian's operations. We would fall asleep tangled together, and every morning, would wake up grateful to be alive. But Adrian wasn't idle. One evening, I came home from work to find Jamie sitting on the couch, his face pale, a piece of paper in his hands. What's that? I asked. He held it up. It was a photograph. A photograph of the two of us, taken through the window of Jamie's apartment. We were sitting on the couch, laughing, my head on his shoulder. It looked like it had been taken the night before. On the back, in neat, precise handwriting, someone had written, "I can see you." My blood ran cold. Where did you find this? It was taped to the door. Jamie's voice was steady, but his hands were shaking. Eli, he's watching us. I sat down beside him and pulled him into my arms. I know. I'm sorry. I thought we had more time. What do we do? I thought about it. The FBI was building a case, but it was slow. Too slow. Adrian would move before they did. We needed to force his hand. We need to leave the city, I said. Not forever. Just until the investigation is complete. There's a cabin up north. My aunt used to own it. It's isolated, off the grid. We'll be safe there. Jamie nodded. Okay. When do we leave? Tonight. We packed quickly, clothes, food, the burner phones, the notebook full of evidence I had been compiling. I called my aunt's lawyer, confirmed the cabin was still in the family, and told him I needed the keys. He didn't ask questions. By midnight, we were on the road. Jamie drove. I sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window at the city lights fading behind us. My heart was pounding, but for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. He'll follow us, Jamie said quietly. It wasn't a question. Probably, I admitted. But he won't know where we're going. And by the time he figures it out, it'll be too late. Jamie reached over and took my hand. Tell me about the cabin. I smiled faintly. It's small. Wood-burning stove, no Wi-Fi, a lake about a mile away. I used to spend summers there when I was a kid. Before everything fell apart. Sounds nice. It is. Quiet. Safe. Jamie lifted my hand to his lips and kissed my knuckles. I like the sound of that. We drove through the night, taking back roads and avoiding the main highways. By the time the sun rose, we were deep in the mountains, surrounded by pine trees and the smell of cold, clean air. The cabin was exactly as I remembered it, weathered wooden walls, a sagging porch, a stone chimney. It looked like something out of a postcard. It looked like sanctuary. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. Dust motes danced in the morning light. Jamie came in behind me, setting down the bags and looking around. "This is perfect," he said. I turned to him. "You're not scared?" "I'm terrified," he admitted. "But I'm with you. That makes it bearable." I crossed the room and kissed him. It was slow and deep, full of all the things I couldn't say. When we broke apart, Jamie rested his forehead against mine. "We're going to get through this," he said. "Together." I believed him. The days at the cabin were quiet. We chopped firewood, cooked simple meals, took long walks through the woods. We talked about everything, our childhoods, our dreams, the future we wanted to build together. We kissed in the kitchen, held hands by the fire, fell asleep tangled in each other on the lumpy old bed. It was the happiest I had been in years. But I knew it couldn't last. I used the burner phone to keep in touch with the journalist from my last life, a woman named Cassandra Vale. She had been investigating the Voss family before she disappeared, and in this timeline, she was still alive, still digging. I gave her everything I had, names, dates, locations, account numbers. She was skeptical at first, but then she started verifying the information. Her tone changed. "This is huge," she said on one call. "If even half of this is true, Adrian Voss is going away for life." "It's all true," I said. "But you need to move fast. He knows I'm involved. He'll try to tie up loose ends. I'll do what I can." She paused. "Stay safe, Eli." "I'm trying." The call ended. I stared at the phone for a long time. That night, Jamie found me sitting on the porch, staring out at the trees. He sat down beside me and wrapped a blanket around my shoulders. "What's wrong?" he asked. "I'm scared," I admitted. "Not for me. For you. If something happens to you." Jamie took my hand. "Nothing's going to happen to me. You don't know that. In my last life, you died trying to protect me. I can't let that happen again." Jamie was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Eli, if I had to do it again, if I had to take a bullet for you 1,000 times, I would. Without hesitation. Not because I want to die, but because I want you to live. That's what love is, isn't it? Wanting the other person to be okay, even if it costs you everything." My eyes burned. "That's not fair. I can't lose you again." "You won't," he said firmly. He cupped my face in his hands, forcing me to meet his eyes. "We're going to survive this. Both of us. Together." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that love could win against a man like Adrian Voss. But I had seen too much to be naive. I pulled Jamie into a kiss, pouring every ounce of my fear and love and hope into it. He kissed me back with equal intensity, his hands tangling in my hair. The blanket slipped from my shoulders, and the cold night air bit at my skin, but I didn't care. I just needed to feel him, warm and alive, against me. When we finally pulled apart, Jamie was smiling. "What was that for?" "For being you," I said. "For loving me. For not running away. I would never run from you." He pressed a kiss to my forehead. "Now come inside. It's freezing." I let him lead me back into the cabin, back to the warmth and the light and the soft, safe bed where we fell asleep in each other's arms. The next morning, the world ended again. I woke to the sound of tires on gravel. Jamie was already awake, standing by the window, his face white. "Eli," he whispered. "Someone's here." I threw off the covers and joined him at the window. A black SUV was parked at the edge of the driveway. 2 men in dark suits got out. Then a third. Adrian Voss. He looked up at the cabin, and for a moment, his eyes seemed to meet mine through the glass. He smiled. Stay here, I said to Jamie. No way. He grabbed my arm. I'm not letting you go out there alone. Jamie, please. No, he said fiercely. We do this together. Remember? I looked at him, at the boy who had loved me for years, who had waited in the rain with sunflowers, who had thrown himself in front of a bullet to save me. He was terrified. I could see it in the tight set of his jaw, the way his hands trembled. But he wasn't running. Okay, I said. Together. We walked to the door together. I opened it. Adrian stood on the porch, flanked by his men. He was dressed in black, his dark hair slicked back, his eyes cold. He looked at me, then at Jamie, and his smile widened. There you are, he said. I've been looking everywhere for you too. How did you find us? I asked. You're not as clever as you think, Eli. He stepped closer. You made some anonymous calls. Very brave. Very stupid. It wasn't hard to trace them back to you. My stomach dropped. I had been careful, but clearly not careful enough. What do you want? Jamie demanded, stepping in front of me. Adrian's eyes flicked to him. I want Eli. He belongs to me. He just doesn't know it yet. He doesn't belong to anyone, Jamie said. Least of all you. Adrian's smile didn't waver. You have spirit. I can see why he likes you. But spirit won't save you. He reached into his jacket. I tensed. But he didn't pull out a gun. He pulled out a phone. I have enough evidence to put you both away for obstruction of justice, aiding a federal investigation without cause, maybe even conspiracy. Or I could just make you disappear. It would be so easy. Then why haven't you? I asked. Adrian looked at me. For a moment, his expression softened into something almost human. Because I don't want to hurt you, Eli. I never wanted to hurt you. I just wanted you to see that we could be good together. That I could give you everything. You can't give me what I already have, I said. I reached out and took Jamie's hand. Love. Trust. Safety. Jamie gives me all of that. You give me fear and cages and blood. I will never choose you. The silence stretched. Then Adrian's face changed. The mask slipped, and I saw the monster underneath, cold, furious, utterly without mercy. You think this is a love story, he said quietly. It's not. It's a transaction. And you just refused my offer. He turned to his men. Take them. The men moved. Jamie reacted first. He shoved me back through the door and slammed it shut, throwing the lock. Eli, run. I'm not leaving you. Go. Now. The door splintered. Adrian's men were strong, and the old wood was weak. Jamie grabbed a cast-iron skillet from the stove and swung it at the first man through the door. It connected with a sickening crunch, and the man went down. But the second man was faster. He tackled Jamie to the ground. I grabbed a kitchen knife and lunged at him, but someone caught my wrist from behind. The knife clattered to the floor. Adrian's voice was in my ear, low and cold. You should have just said yes. I fought. I kicked, I screamed, I clawed. But he was too strong. He pinned my arms behind my back and forced me out of the cabin. I could hear Jamie shouting my name, struggling against the man who held him down. Let him go. I yelled. Your fight is with me. Adrian shoved me against the side of the SUV. His face was inches from mine. You're right, he said. It is. But I'm going to make him watch. I want him to see exactly who you belong to. Terror gripped my heart. I had seen this scene before. I had lived it. The only difference was that this time, I wasn't going to let Jamie die for me. You want to know why I chose him? I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. Because he would never do this. He would never hurt me, or threaten the people I love. He would never treat me like property. Adrian's grip tightened. Love is weakness. No, I said. Love is the only thing that matters. And you will never understand it. For a moment, Adrian's eyes flickered with something, rage, or maybe pain. Then he raised his hand to strike me. He never got the chance. The crack of a gunshot split the air. Adrian froze. His men froze. Jamie, still pinned to the ground, looked up with wide eyes. FBI. Put your hands in the air. The clearing filled with figures in tactical gear, emerging from the trees like shadows. Red lasers danced across Adrian's chest. He stared at me, and for the first time, I saw something I had never seen in his eyes before. Fear. You set me up, he whispered. No, I said. I just learned from my mistakes. The agents swarmed. Adrian was pulled away from me, forced to his knees, handcuffed. His men were subdued. I ran to Jamie, who was already staggering to his feet, blood dripping from a cut on his lip. Jamie. Jamie, are you okay? He pulled me into his arms, holding me so tightly I could barely breathe. I'm fine. I'm fine. Are you okay? I'm okay. I buried my face in his shoulder and sobbed with relief. We held each other as the clearing filled with shouted orders and the metallic click of handcuffs. Cassandra Vale emerged from the trees, her phone raised, recording everything. You did it, she said, grinning. You actually did it. I looked up at her. You came. You gave me the story of a lifetime. I wasn't going to miss the finale. She nodded toward the cabin. You two should go inside. It's cold. I'll handle things out here. Jamie and I stumbled back into the cabin. The wood stove had gone out, but neither of us cared. We collapsed onto the couch, tangled together, shaking. It's over, Jamie whispered. It's really over. I looked at him. His face was streaked with dirt and blood, his hair a mess, his clothes torn. He was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. It's over, I agreed. We're safe. He kissed me then, soft and gentle, like he was afraid I might break. I kissed him back harder, needing to feel him, needing to prove that we were both alive. When we finally broke apart, Jamie rested his forehead against mine. I love you, Eli. I love you so much. I love you too, I said. More than anything. Outside, the sirens began to wail. But inside the cabin, wrapped in Jamie's arms, the world was finally quiet. The weeks that followed were a blur of legal proceedings and media attention. Adrian Voss was arrested on charges of racketeering, money laundering, weapons trafficking, and conspiracy to commit murder. Cassandra Vale's article, along with my testimony and the evidence I had provided, was enough to bring down not just Adrian but his entire organization. He was denied bail and would likely spend the rest of his life in prison. Jamie and I were placed in protective custody for a while. We gave statements, testified in front of a grand jury, and slowly, piece by piece, rebuilt our lives. We never returned to the city. The cabin had become our home, a place of safety and warmth and new beginnings. My aunt's lawyer transferred the deed to me, and we spent the summer fixing it up, replacing the sagging porch, repainting the walls, planting a garden out back. It was hard work, but it was good work. It was ours. One evening, as the sun set over the mountains, Jamie found me sitting on the porch, a mug of tea in my hands. What are you thinking about? He asked, sitting down beside me. Everything, I said. How different my life could have been. How close I came to losing you. Jamie took my hand. But you didn't. We're here. Together. I looked at him. The golden light caught in his hair, turning it to copper. His eyes were soft, full of love. I never told you, I said quietly. In my last life, what I regretted most wasn't choosing Adrian. It was never realizing what I had with you. You were always there, Jamie. Always waiting, always hoping. And I was too blind to see it. Jamie squeezed my fingers. You see it now. I do. I turned to face him fully. Jamie, I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I want to wake up next to you every morning and fall asleep beside you every night. I want to build a life with you, here, in this place. I want to love you for as long as I live. Jamie's eyes went shiny. Are you proposing? No, I said, reaching into my pocket. Well. Yes. I pulled out a small velvet box and opened it. Inside was a simple silver band, no diamonds, no flourishes. Just a ring, solid and true, like the man sitting beside me. Jamie Beckett, I said, will you marry me? Jamie stared at the ring, then at me. A tear slipped down his cheek. Yes, he whispered. Yes, of course. 1,000 times yes. I slid the ring onto his finger. It fit perfectly. He pulled me into a kiss, and the world fell away. There was no mafia boss, no bullet, no blood. There was only Jamie, warm and real and mine, and the promise of forever in his touch. 1 year later. The wedding was small, held in the clearing behind the cabin, with the mountains rising like sentinels around us. Cassandra came, along with a few friends from our old lives who had never stopped believing in us. My aunt, frail but smiling, sat in the front row with tears streaming down her face. Jamie wore a simple gray suit. I wore a matching one. We had written our own vows, and as I stood there, holding his hands, I realized I had never been more certain of anything in my life. Jamie, I said, my voice steady despite the emotion threatening to overwhelm me, I spent 5 years in another life learning what love isn't. It isn't control. It isn't fear. It isn't a cage dressed up as a gift. I paused. Love is you. It's the way you waited for me in the rain. It's the way you held me when I was broken. It's the way you believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. I choose you. Today, tomorrow, and in every life I ever live. I choose you. Jamie's eyes were bright with tears, but he was smiling. Eli, he said, I've loved you since the first moment I saw you, standing in that dorm hallway, laughing at me in my towel. A soft laugh rippled through the small crowd. But what I didn't know then was that loving you would become the defining choice of my life. You are my best friend, my home, my heart. I would cross any distance, fight any fight, face any darkness, just to stand beside you. I love you. I always have. I always will. We exchanged rings. The officiant pronounced us married. And when I kissed Jamie, it felt like coming home. 3 years later. We adopted a dog, a scruffy golden retriever mix named Sunny, because Jamie said she looked like happiness. We built a small studio behind the cabin where I wrote novels and Jamie taught online classes. We planted a garden that grew more vegetables than we could ever eat. We argued about whose turn it was to chop wood and made up with kisses on the porch. I told Jamie the truth about my rebirth, all of it. He believed me. He never once doubted me. And in return, I never once doubted us. One night, as we lay in bed, the window opened to the cool mountain air, Jamie turned to me. Do you ever wonder about the other life? He asked. The one where you chose him? I thought about it. The answer came easily. Sometimes, I admitted. But not often. That life taught me what I was missing. This life gave it to me. I reached out and touched his face. I wouldn't change a thing. Jamie smiled and pulled me closer. Me neither. We fell asleep like that, wrapped in each other, the moonlight spilling silver across the bed. Outside, the world was quiet. Safe. Full of love. I had spent 5 years in a gilded cage, and I had spent a lifetime running from the truth. But in the end, I had chosen the boy who loved me most. And he had chosen me too. That was the only thing that mattered.